Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the latest release courtesy of Tinnitus Classics, of which I happen to be the executive director. And I'm particularly proud of this one because it resolves a really, really difficult issue. As some of you may know, the world of Bruckner is in crisis. Major, major crisis. Why? Because every possible edition of all of the symphonies has basically been issued and codified. And what else do these people have to do? They are running out of room. Even with someone like Bruckner, who might have woken up on a morning and changed 3 notes of a clarinet part, which would necessitate an entirely new critical edition. Hell, never mind, an entirely new Stiftung to issue the critical edition. There's still only so much material. And with that limited ability to create new stuff, these people are going to be out of work very quickly. But frankly, Tinnitus Classics has taken the problem in hand and offered a fabulous and eminently practical solution to the issue of how to continually do more Bruckner, claiming that it's new and original. Well, of course, this particular version is new and original. It is Bruckner inverted, the complete symphonies of Anton Bruckner played upside down. That is, inverted, with all of the musical intervals inverted. That doesn't mean you just take the music and do this. It means that you actually play the melodies upside down. So, for example, the beginning of the 7th Symphony goes do, 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 do. Well, instead it goes do, 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 like that. It's inverted. You can't believe how fascinating this is going to turn out to be. It's actually an amazing voyage of discovery because the fact of the matter is, Bruckner, as he got older and his contrapuntal mastery increased, tended to invert everything anyway. In fact, he would often play melodies simultaneously with their inversions, such as, for example, the coda of the 6th Symphony's first movement, where you have da 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 played simultaneously with ba da 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 da, whatever it's doing. It's simultaneous, and so it doesn't make any difference if it's inverted. But there are things which do make a difference if they're inverted. There are actual tunes, for example. Just consider the Scherzo of the 8th Symphony, which has this motive, da 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 bum ba da 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 bum ba da 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 bum bum. Instead, it goes da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da dum. Well, that makes quite a difference, doesn't it? Especially since it's going to get repeated about 30 billion times over the course of the movement. And so there are things which will sound somewhat different inverted, and some things that will sound exactly the same. And that's not all. What makes that even more fascinating is that as Bruckner moved on through the symphonies, the amount of inversion that really matters significantly diminishes, because his earlier symphonies are somewhat more traditional in form, 1, 2, up to about 4. And so they definitely sound the way they sound when they're played right side up, and sound quite different when they're played upside down. After number 4, they start to sound increasingly the same when they're played upside down, especially the 5th Symphony, because that's Bruckner's contrapuntal masterpiece. Whether it's do, 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 or do, 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 makes absolutely no difference. And the fugue in the finale, that endless fugue where it's all just going, boom, you could play it backwards, upside down, sideways. It wouldn't make any difference, because that's the whole point of fugal technique, of contrapuntal technique. You can invert it, which is upside down. You can diminish it. You can augment it. You can do all these different things. You can play it backwards and retrograde, and Bruckner does all of that stuff. So whether it's upside down or right side up, I'll bet you'll have a really hard time determining it. But But how did we do this? How were we able to do this? Well, I have to be honest and say straight off that Tinnitus Classics was unable to find an actual orchestra and conductor willing to play all of our new scores upside down in time to release the complete edition of all the symphonies in all of their different versions. And I can't really blame them. You can't, because it's a big ask. It really is, especially when it's a big ask just to get them to play them right side up. I mean, there is no shortage of dreadful conductors and horrible orchestras willing to do bad Bruckner, but we wanted something that was truly, truly distinctive, particularly as this particular edition was created in honor and partially funded by, I have to say, the city of Graz, Austria, in honor of their placement of the fabulous inverted Bruckner Memorial. And here it is. There you go, you see? So we have the inverted Bruckner Memorial, and so we needed to have a complete edition of the inverted Bruckner symphonies. And so, with a little bit of digging, Tinnitus Classics was able to come up with the inversion of the complete Rostestvenski Bruckner cycle, formerly on Melodia. And let's see here. I mean, this is with the USSR Ministry of Culture Symphony Orchestra, and it has lots and lots of Bruckner editions. It even has editions of the Bruckner symphonies that the critical editions don't have. It has like the Mahler edition of something. It has, it's amazing what Rostestvenski was able to come up with and record. And as you can see, we have the entire Rostestvenski series, which was recorded in laceratingly painful stereo sound by Melodia's engineers, which we have managed to adjust somewhat to reduce some of its more paint-peeling features. Of course, we can't do anything about the paint-peeling aspects of the brass playing. That was just part of the Russian tradition at that time. But we've got them all. They're all here, and they are all upside down, and fabulously so, I might add. This is going to be a real voyage of discovery for all Bruckner fans who are tired of hearing the usual right-side-up versions of the Bruckner symphonies. I mean, and I'm definitely one of those. There is so much music that would really sound better if it were played upside down, and the Bruckner symphonies are first in that list of stuff. Now, if this is successful, I just want to say we have several more programs in the works on Tinnitus Classics, and I really hope that we'll be able to bring them to fruition for you, because I know that the demand is there. It's just a question of whether or not we can do them. The first is the underwater Bruckner cycle. This, we started to do it, but the funding ran out because essentially what happened is that we were recording the underwater Bruckners off of a beautiful tropical atoll in the Pacific coast, off of the Yucatan Peninsula, sort of that part of Mexico, the lower part of Mexico. But unfortunately, when we were in the middle of playing Bruckner's Eighth Symphony underwater, apparently the sound waves excited a pod of orcas to such a frenzy that they devoured the recording team. And this was not only the first performance of Bruckner that was recorded underwater, it was the first reported case of a pod of orcas attacking humans. And so in order to actually do the complete underwater Bruckner, we don't want to use a swimming pool because the acoustic would be all wrong. We need to be in open ocean, and so we need to find a way to protect the recording people, and that's going to take a little doing and cost a little bit of money, because we don't know what other cetaceans and aquatic life might be driven to, insanity and bloodlust by the playing of Bruckner underwater. So that's the next one, if we can actually get it done. And then after the underwater Bruckner, we are planning on doing the Heliox Bruckner. That is to perform the entire symphonies in an atmosphere in which nitrogen has been replaced by helium. And you know what that does. I mean, if you've ever sucked in a helium balloon and then you try and talk, it materially alters the pitch of your voice. raising it considerably. Now, Bruckner, being, of course, a heavy-duty Austro-Germanic composer, tends to prefer dark, rich colors in his orchestration. So it will be extremely interesting to see what happens when the frequency of all of those things goes up by an octave or three. I think that will be equally fascinating. And for all of these productions, we have Maestro Rojdestvensky and his Moscow Orchestra, except it'll be this way instead of this way. But, what the heck. So I do hope that you'll stay with us and have this opportunity to hear the Upside Down Bruckner. I wish I could play you samples. I wish I could, but the release isn't quite due out, and it's been embargoed for copyright purposes until the physical release arrives in the next few months. But do keep your eye out for it, because I know that you're not going to want to miss it. And it's going to be one of the most important projects that Tinnitus Classics has ever undertaken. The Inverted Bruckner. Look for it in online and streaming sources near you. Keep on listening, folks. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.